This video is brought to you by viewers like you. Thanks for letting me do this for so long. Someone needs to call a doctor ASAP because I've come down with a case of Pokemon fever. I don't really know why, since the new games weren't anything too incredible, but whenever we get a new generation of Pokemon, it's a great opportunity to take stock of where this mega franchise is at the moment and how terrible some of its Pokemon are. Yeah, there's more than 1,000 of them now. Surely there has to be some in here that didn't quite get the same memo as the rest, or had just the wrong sort of creativity behind them. Either way, with so many to choose from, you'd think that I'd be tripping over options, but as I found out over the years, almost all Pokemon have some kind of redeemable quality to them. It's my task today to find the ones that make me the angriest, and to do so without leaving my audience feeling much the same way, but about my decisions instead. If any of these are one of your favourites, get better standards. It's not like you haven't got enough to choose from now. The tricky part of this video is balancing how I feel about Pokemon designs when stacked up against its usability in battle. There's some damn creative people working at Game Freak, and when they're at the top of their game, they're capable of turning some of the wildest corners of nature into a playable, understandable cog in the vast Pokemon machine. To that end, having something as simplistic as an iceberg Pokemon doesn't sound too crazy, but it does make for a fun, actualized concept, since Bergmite and Avalugg are both really dense lumps of ice that shrug off most physical attacks thanks to their beefy defense. If you tried to punch a solid lump of ice, it's like going to the gym and using a block of limestone as a punching bag. So you might be wondering, what the hell I'm doing putting such a groovy concept for a Pokemon on a worst Pokemon video, but trust me, there's some logic here. I have absolutely no issues with this line's conception, but when put into a video game that you have to play and use Avalugg against other Pokemon, this thing is really bad. The massive defense stat is cool, but Ice is the single worst defensive type in the entire game, only resisting itself and having 4 weaknesses to common types, and therefore you really don't have a lot of wiggle room when it comes to type matchups. Having this much defense isn't very helpful when your special defense is terrible, and your speed is so low that you're a sitting duck outside of a Trick Room team. Even worse, Avalugg was blessed with a Hisuian form when Legends Arceus rolled around, so it had a chance to sort itself out with an exciting new type and ability, and yeah, he's big! Damn, boy, he's thick! But he's also a Rock Ice type now, which does gain some resistances, but also picks up 2 4x weaknesses. It's the definition of all style and no substance, an awesomely strong looking iceberg monster that melts away if you leave it out in the sun for more than 5 seconds. Stick it in the freezer and leave it there. You know, given that it was the first generation of Pokemon and those games are as unbalanced as they are glitchy, it's kind of insane how well the original 151 have held up over the years. Yeah, okay, the majority of these have had regional forms or mega evolutions or something to keep them relevant, but you've only got to play something like Fire Red or Leaf Green to see how cool and groovy all of these Pokemon are. As such, something like the Paris line sticks out like an out-of-tune key on a piano, like you're playing this beautiful melody and everything's working perfectly, and then suddenly, oh snap! It's the mushroom Pokemon that nobody likes or uses or acknowledges for any reason. Actually, that's not true. I remember a lot of people were talking about Paris when it was throwing hands and blobs of poison around like the aggressive little shiitake that he so desperately wants to be. Maybe Paris was some kind of apex predator back in olden times. Well, at any rate, Paris and Parasect are the polar opposite these days. It's a similar issue to Avalugg, where I do vibe with the design, since an insect that becomes consumed and puppeted by a giant mushroom is really cool, and a great showcase of nature doing wildly creative things that I always love to see from Pokemon. But using these little guys practically is a losing battle from the very start. Even more so literally, since in Gen 1 and in Gen 1 only, Poison is super effective against Bug, and so the type combination of Grass Bug comes with a truly staggering 3 4x weaknesses and another 3 2x weaknesses for good measure. As Poison became neutral against Bug, things would improve marginally, but now you got abilities to worry about instead, and if you manage to pick up one of these bad boys with Dry Skin, that 4x weakness to Fire becomes 5x. As if my mushroom friends can't spend more than 10 seconds in the sun without spontaneously combusting. Parasect can't even rely on at least one crazy strong stat since they're evenly distributed and almost entirely useless. It's just a sad state of affairs, and when so many other Cantonian Pokemon have been revisited and tweaked over the years, these two have been roughly the same level of useless for 25 years. Ah, but what about Spore, you might be thinking? Way too many other better Pokemon learn Spore now, so you can't even use the one unique thing that these Pokemon had going for them. My fun guy became a clicker for nothing. One of my favourite places to go whenever new Pokemon games come out is Bulbapedia's list of base stat totals. It's one of the best indications of Game Freak's unhealthy obsession with power creep and the efforts they've gone to undermine the literal god of creation in the Pokemon universe. Yeah, Arceus might have created all things and all concepts, but he better watch out for Groudon when some jewellery makes him angry. On the flip side, I found it fascinating that Wishy-Washy in its Forever Alone form technically has the lowest base stat total in all of Pokemon, stealing the crown from Sunkern after 5 generations of unmatched mediocrity. But yeah, I can see the logic here. With a type like grass that sometimes comes under fire for being plants with eyes, a happy looking seed would logically be pretty goddamn unusable in a fight. He's a foot tall. Most Pokemon out there would probably just eat him. So yeah, that's fine, but you know what grows from seeds? Big, mighty trees or impressive plants that spiral up to the heavens, or anything else that can deliver on the limitless potential of what starts as just a seed Pokemon. That's what they're doing here, right? You start with some crappy 180 base stat total baby Pokemon that can evolve into giant tree monster, much like Wishy-Washy but with an evolution involved? No, not exactly, because Sunkern, of course, evolves into Sunflora, which isn't exactly what I was picturing in my head. I guess it makes sense, since one half of Sunkern's name does allude to it being a sunflower seed, and this evolution does help to show off the Sunstone, which was new in Gen 2, but nah, fuck it. This should be a much more exciting evolutionary line. At the very least, Sunflora should have better stats since it's trying to go for a specially focused grass type that thrives in the sun, but with speed and defense stats this low, any somewhat fast or strong Pokemon will run rings around it. If most animals got into a fight with a sunflower, well, let's just say my money's not on the stupid plant. I reckon I could take a Sunflora. That's not a good thing. Hey, does anyone remember when that one journalist that no one can remember the name of wrote a review of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire for IGN and talked smack about the amount of water in these games? Yeah, it was a simpler time when people had enough energy to care how someone feels about some remakes to a decade-old set of Pokemon games. There is a point there, though. Hoenn sure does have a lot of water, but I feel like it makes the most of it with a boxed legendary water type and a host of other slightly less exciting water types. Floundering at the bottom of that list, and in fact most lists except for the one that I'm making a video on today, is Luvdisc, which I think was put into these games so that you could get used to the idea that wild Pokemon could hold very handy items. You can't relearn old moves without giving up a heart scale in these games, and if you want to do some remembering on a mass scale, you're gonna have to hunt down some Luvdiscs and take their items somehow. I don't really know how. So that's fine. As an infinite source of an important item, Luvdisc has that role locked down, but as an actual, Pokemon, it comes up very short in basically every area. Look, I get it that not all of the new water Pokemon need to be good, but I don't really know why Game Freak left Luvdisc so high and dry. You've got this Heartfish with stats so garbage that there's no strategy that can get any use out of them. Sure, its speed is kinda high, and doubly so if you can get Swift Swim working, but Luvdisc has neither the stats nor the move pool to make this work. You can try to use it as a support Pokemon, but what moves are you using exactly? Rain Dance and Icy Wind? It's a waste of a slot. To make matters worse, Luvdisc never evolves, but it had the perfect opportunity to do so in Gen 5 when Alomomola came onto the scene, and yeah, one's a discus fish and the other's a sunfish, but they're both pink and heart-shaped, and at least this way Luvdisc would have something to look forward to. Alomomola isn't a great Pokemon by any means, but at least it has something going for it, and is a recognized support Pokemon with the move pool to back it up. Luvdisc has absolutely nothing. I bet they taste wonderful though. I'll cut a long story short, the worst Pokemon are usually the gimmick Pokemon. With how Game Freak designed Pokemon, they do generally give every new creation a chance to shine in its own special way, and promote the ideas that you can pick from a huge lineup of Pokemon for your playthroughs. Gimmick Pokemon uproot so much of how normal critters work in favour of doing something completely different, otherwise unseen from other Pokemon, typically at the cost of being shitty in the vast majority of scenarios. Some of them are cool, like Ditto and Shedinja, but others like Delibird, which can only learn one move, and Smeargle, which can technically learn every move, are far more irritating to use. Taking the crown though is of course Unknown, which hey, also only learns one move, but for so long was given this element of mystery and intrigue, like you were only getting half the picture of this incredibly strong Pokemon, which is so mysterious, it's literally called Unknown. Surely a Pokemon based around the alphabet and is hidden away in so many ruins across the generations has something of value to it? Sadly no, and frankly I feel like I don't need to explain myself too much given that Unknown's been around for more than 20 years and has had 0 secrets to share in that time. It's like Game Freak thought of an alphabet Pokemon and never followed up on it because it doesn't matter which letter you find, they're all fucking useless. Its only move being Hidden Power is very not ideal since it has a random type and power based on IVs, and Unknown is hardly the powerhouse to begin with. If you can learn one move and that move is special, why is your attack stat your joint highest stat? You basically have 0 incentive to catch one apart from filling out your Pokedex, and you especially shouldn't be thinking of catching all forms since the rewards range from tiny to literally nothing. And that's particularly stupid because the whole point of Unknown being useless on its own is some grand allegory to the power of words and sentences, and how an O on its own means nothing, but with all of them you get sentences and expressive communication and languages, and all of them swirling around like they're gonna do something in their Entei movie, but nah, nothing. Just a complete waste of time and concept. We stan Hoenn for replacing the Unknown puzzles with Braille and the Reggies. Today I am an explorer, not a school teacher. And yeah, I think those are the worst Pokemon ever made. Do you agree, or are there worst Pokemon out there still? Let me know in a comment down below, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more in the future, and hit that bell for notifications of every new upload. If you need something else to watch right now, I ranked a Crash Bandicoot game last week, and I also want to thank my top supporters on Patreon, including the Green Scorpion, Christopher Robinson, and Raina Bana Bobana. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.